everybody. I know it's been a while, but I'm back, and it's become really apparent, isn't that funny, that we are not speaking the same language as education. And so it's really important to understand that if they're speaking a language, if you're speaking a language, or they're speaking a language that used to be the same language you spoke, but throughout time, they changed the language without telling you, then yes, and I realize that I'm talking about things that, because all I do is read and research all day, I'm talking about things and I'm having problems with things, and I'm posting things that people are like, why do you have a problem with this? It seems completely logical. Well, yes, it does. But, and you have to understand, and this is what I've come to understand, and I call it Yunkinese, but we'll call it educationese, is that they're speaking a different language. And it's going to start to drive you nuts if you actually try to understand it. And I'm going to break it apart. I know that a lot of times I come on here and for 3 hours I'm going to do like 5 to 6 terms at a time. And, I try to start a Substack, and there's just too much up here for me to sit down and write like bite-sized pieces for people to understand, because I want to sit down and word vomit a War and Peace novel on what this is. So I've had a couple people that are want to squat up with me and get this on paper. For me, I would rather listen or watch a video with visuals, but not everybody some people really like Substack. So that will be coming. But today I'm not going to focus so much on my problem with Governor Youngkin or Amy Gadara. I am going to make a comment real quick, because the other day my phone was going bonkers about Jillian Bela resigning. I will tell you this, is that I knew that was coming, because as much as I've been challenged in the last year about my approach, is that I have people coming forth from every crack of the education universe to tell me information. And people ask why. Why did she quit? And here's my answer is, she has a soul. And that's really the most basic is that I can put it. Is that, so she was brought over from Wyoming to be part of this new red wave. And so what I'm going to show you is that, and imagine being the face of Virginia education, okay? God, this is going to drive me nuts. I hope it goes away. Imagine being the face of something, and you get blamed for everything. And then, but you're not the Secretary of Education. And keep in mind, guys, she is highly unqualified for this job. She was when she came in. I think she taught for 10 years or something before she became the state superintendent of Wyoming. And so, I mean, this is my experience going to meetings, the mind-blowing, like, face on her. And so this is my opinion on what I know in conversations I've had, is that she has become the devil. So she's blamed for everything. Whether it's we accidentally left out Martin Luther King and the history standards, and so she has to then become the face of apologizing for why everybody in Virginia is evil and the history standards are evil because an accident happened. And so she then has to come on, and so she's then made to be the devil. I mean, she's the most evil person ever. Because, guys, I've been going to board of education meetings since James Lane, Ralph Northam. the amount of outrage that happened in that time, from the sex ed standards becoming kindergarten, social emotional learning, we're talking about anti-racist education. There's now like 80 people that want to speak at Board of Education meetings. When the libs were in power, there was like 3, and it was the same 3 every single month. That's a problem. Because when they can come out of every crevice of Virginia to be there early as hell on a Thursday morning, and there's 3 or 4 of us up against 80 of them, yeah, it's a problem. And I've said this before, is that there's like 15 divisions that can get to that part, and I'm digressing, but I'll get to my point, that can get to downtown Richmond at the 6495 interchange in less than an hour and a half or 2 hours. I get up sometimes at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive places to speak at breakfast clubs. I don't get paid. Why? Because people need this information. And if we don't start showing up, what I'm going to show you is going to continue to happen. Because so much has happened in this state, you wouldn't believe it. So Belo, why would she resign? Okay. Well, one, we have a governor who wants to be a governor but not govern us. So she doesn't have a governor backing her to the full force of a governor, of what a governor should do. She's being thrown this, what I'm going to go through, this education, 40 years of bipartisan, uniparty, swamp education destruction. And I can tell you this by being somebody that has forcefully put myself in a position to give people who need to know the information. That would be part of what we're going to go through on the removal of inquiry learning, which I can say that I was a part of by giving certain people information on what that was. So it is that, so it's understanding words. And so for people say, why did she, well, I can tell you without having to even read the article. She has a soul. She inherited, James Lane left the Department of Education, the board, and went to become the right hand of Miguel Cardona, who is the head of FedEd. He got violations from OASP on special ed and how they don't follow any protocol, which they still don't. He got violated 2 years ago, never did anything about it for the special ed children and the parents who continue to fight this more than anybody. And then he goes to the office, and then she gets a letter citing her in violation for what he didn't do, and he now works for that office. So, I mean, you can start to put together, is this worth it? And so that's what I'll say on that. And here I am. I'm going to bet, those of you that we'll get in a different episode, Andrew Rotherham, okay? They'll mention he was part of the Clinton administration. No, Andrew Rotherham, who is a Youngkin appointee, Youngkin brought him in, okay? This man was not just a part of the Clinton administration, and he was an education policy analyst under the Clinton administration. So people that know about education, the conspiracy, they talk about Mark Tucker. We literally have a Mark Tucker who would be like the Hillary letters about how we're going to proceed with the education conspiracy. I have 8,000 pages of Clinton library, because back then they had this great thing like microfiche. We have to scan everything in so it's not so easily deleted. Andrew Rotherham has been part of the education swamp for 30 years. And he's now, I knew about him before Youngkin. So when I saw his name that Youngkin appointed him, I was like, holy. And I could do 5 on Rotherham. But so we're talking about the man who, with Bill Clinton, the reauthorization of ESEA, you know, the Elementary Secondary Education Act, which led to No Child Left Behind under Bush, and then which led to the so this has all been re-signing. These are all the same thing since 1964, when the original elementary secondary education, which is when the federalization of public schools really began. And so we're talking about layers of right. Hey Philip, I just want to show you guys. So this is somebody running for Senate in the 11th district. Philip Andrew Hamilton. Sunday, if you are available, come out to his. I will be speaking, and so this is somebody running for Senate. He's running against Cree Deeds, who, if you are not aware from watching the J-Car hearing, does not believe that parents have any rights, and that it is the government's job to protect our children from us. So it's in Louisa on Sunday night from 7, I think, 7:30, but I'll post details. So we're talking about people who care, who need to be in our Senate, not just Republicans, but the right Republicans, actual Republicans, people who understand like Philip does. He is a Constitution lover, believer, and so that, what does that make him? A true American, not a new Republican, not a new direction of the Republican, if you've heard that come out of Tim Anderson or Glenn Youngkin's mouth. Is that so when I send people information to understand education, and this is the same thing with Matt Strickland, Mike Allers, Mike Van Meter, people running for Senate who want to understand education, they come in and they actually participate and they watch this, so that when they go in, because we're going to help them get in, because they're not just red bodies and red seats. So if you're around Sunday, come to Louisa and meet Philip Andrew Hamilton. He is Albemarle, which is Charlottesville, Amherst, and that area. So the new D11, District 11, is, and he's running against Cree Deeds, which is a whole different story. So thank you, Philip, for joining us. So anyway, so education policy is something that is beyond mind-blowing. And, you know, it's very easy, and oftentimes I see people, even this morning on Facebook, they were talking about when you change the dialect. So when you change the dialect and you change the terminology of everything, which is what's been done, and this is what we're going to see happen with the Constitution if we don't step up, is that when you slowly change the meaning of terminology and you accept it for what it is, and then before you know it, documents have no meaning, because they've essentially rewritten our founding documents by changing the language, by changing the definitions. So this is why it's important to understand dialect, you know, semantics, syntax, things like that. I mean, there's so much out there about what happens when you change the language, and the people who speak English, don't understand that the language has completely been changed. And what you think that you're applauding, and this is what I've challenged everybody in a red seat in the House of Delegates and the Senate, is, especially the ones that have been there for years, multiple terms, is do you understand the words that you voted on? Why do you have 21st century skills on your education agenda? You need to take it down until you understand what it means. Stupid swamp swimming is my approach. We all know that. So, and I've said this 100 times. So to understand education, you have to understand the words. And literally, anytime that I hear Glenn Youngkin, Amy Gadara speak, it makes me cringe, because I understand how to speak education. And guys, this goes back to they're speaking the same words that Ralph Northam, James Lane, Tim McCain, McAuliffe, Youngkin and McAuliffe have the same education agenda, exact same education agenda. We didn't know it. Why? Because he was running on Parents Matter. The kids can't wait. That even has its different, like the kids can't, we took it as like their safety. Loudoun County, our kids can't wait. Transgender policy, CRT, our kids can't wait. Well, in education language, that means something. All means all. Like all, well, that means something. Education excellence, guys, I'm going to get into that. That's a literal terminology. And it's literally equity, and it's literally the opposite of what? Meritocracy. Okay. So, welcome to, okay. So, I just wanted to add some memes because I love them. Did you know, because I get challenged all the time, it is entirely possible to disagree, and this is what, with both liberals and conservatives, it's called thinking for yourself, and we highly recommend it. Then here's another one. Are you a Republican, Democrat, or a rational human being? And then I just heard someone say that kids are different these days. I disagree. Kids are the same. What's changed is society with lowered expectations, lack of discipline, and acceptance of disrespect. Give them boundaries. That would be public education. You can't fail kids. You can't discipline them. Give them boundaries. Give them expectation. Give them rules, limits. Rewards are grades that you earn. We're going to get into all that. And consequences. They will rise to the challenge and exceed your expectations every time. I'm a product of this. We had rules. Who else is? We had rules. We had expectations. We had grade level competency. You're going to quickly find out that we don't have that anymore. And then, guys, if you don't, I was saying this to a Fairfax mom, Stacy, who is like the book mom. She is that, honey, if both sides of the fence hate you, you're doing it right. I found that out walking into the Capitol when they were releasing out of session. It was like, she's here. Like, is that if you have that much effect that, if you're doing it, if you don't fit in and you're okay with it, you're doing the right thing. And then it doesn't matter what party you belong to, if you don't abide by your oath to our Constitution, which would be an oath of office. I do solemnly swear to uphold the Virginia Constitution and the United States Constitution. If you don't do that, including Governor Youngkin, including everybody elected, then you're fired. That is what America does. Okay? This here is the piece that everybody's missing. And then this, believe it or not, this is an Elizabeth Warren quote, but I love it. If you don't have a seat at the table, you are probably on the menu. And if you haven't figured it out, stakeholders, we are not stakeholders. If you see that term a lot. We don't have a seat at the table. I fought in the General Assembly with Ghazala Hashmi to get us a seat at the table. They don't want us there. They don't. And so what mainly brought this, hey Lois, yes, it is, she said that's an old quote. It is an old quote, but I love it. Is because it became part of my, so we'll go back real quick. It became, when I was doing the 8 series part with Deb Philman, is that we were picking apart, the ESSER, the COVID money. And I kept hearing Miguel Cardona, Becky Pringle, all of them talk about seat at the table, seat at the table. We want you to have a seat at the table. And I was like, well, where's my seat at the table? And I came across is that you're on the menu if you're not there. So I fought all session in the General Assembly to not only get us a seat at the table, but to get an invitation back to the seat at the table. And we're at the point where they have made it perfectly clear they don't want us there. Why? Because, and so when you see things like families, like in documents, oh, families are part of this, or parents are part of this. They're talking about certain parents that are going to be allies in this. We're going to find those parents, and then those parents are what we're talking about, not all parents. And even transparency. So when you see documents that say transparency Transparency has its own thing, and it's not like transparency like we want you to know everything going on. Transparency in education even has its own terminology. So today, the Noah Webster, like the dictionary, Foundation, and a whole bunch of other swimming organizations, but people that I love are speaking at it, is they're having a new, their school board training. It's probably going on right now, and some of them are probably watching this at the same time. And so in researching the Noah Webster Foundation, because guys, when you see things that it says conservative group, conservative values, look up the group. So Noah Webster Foundation, it says, so in 1828, an American Dictionary of the English Language, they defined it this way. The bringing up as of child instruction, formation of manners, education comprehends that all series of instruction and discipline which is intended to enlighten the understanding, correct the temper, and form the manners and habits of youth, to give children a good education in manners, arts, and science, to give them a religious education is indispensable, so. Then they go on to talk about how this is their new definition of education, okay? And so it goes into the bringing up of a child and now it says, enlighten the understanding, correct the temper, and form the manners and habits of youth, and fit them for the usefulness in their future stations. Yes. Amen. God. You can go to a school board meeting and say God. My next one is going to say y'all need Jesus. I've already got it made. Because if you say God or Jesus in a school board meeting, your VEA, NEA, CEA will be like, and so guys, you get comfortable with saying the word God. Start talking about God and Jesus. It even makes some of us, like when I started doing it, you get it, because we've been conditioned that it's not okay. It is okay. And so I posted this yesterday, and I said, okay, so the purpose of to impart knowledge, okay? Knowledge, okay? Knowledge is not education. Knowledge is not what we think knowledge to be. To develop character. No. These are the three things that education, guys, keep in mind. Character, it's not your job to develop my child's character. Period. That's my job in my house. You can encourage good manners as the old definition, what it's to be a polite human under the old terms, not empathy. But this one here, to equip students for a useful place in society. To equip them, okay, for a useful place in society. That's not what school is. That's not what education is. It is not to equip them for a useful, and then it becomes the term, what is useful? Whose use? It's definitely not for their use. It's useful for their place in a society. Okay? And so we talk about reform, education reform.
Things we still need to do. Talked about apprenticeship.
Okay. This is from Davos, Switzerland, and I want you to keep in mind. This is where it comes in. I forget his name. He was a former policy advisor to Trump. So just keep in mind that this would be 2020 Davos, Switzerland. And I want you to it's like a 1 minute, less than that. I even clipped out a 15-second blurb of Youngkin in 2020 and the words coming out of his mouth and what we are seeing. And if you're from another state, if you are in another state, this is how I learned. Virginia's been silent for this entire game. Is if you're hearing it here, look for it in your state. Because I was hearing things everywhere else, but I knew that there's no way that it's going on and it's not going on here. And so look for what I say in your state, you'll find it, and then you'll lose your mind. So just because I'm saying it is that this applies to every state. If you hear of something outraging going on in Texas or anywhere else, look for it in your state. It's there. It is there. I promise you. So this is just a clip. Let me know if the audio is okay.
Programs need to make sure there's better education programs for skilled labor. We need to make sure that...
Okay, guys, just to keep in mind, this is a Trump man, because I'm going to speak truth. I'm going to speak it unapologetically.
People who are getting advanced PhDs, that we can keep them working at our companies. I do think the participation rate can continue to go higher. I think productivity, we can spend a lot of time talking about why productivity is where it is, but I think there's upside in productivity. And I think, look, the president wants to fix immigration. That's part of it. Legal immigration has to ultimately be part of the equation.
Okay, real quick. You have a Trump man talking in Davos, Switzerland about why legal immigration has to be part of the equation. Okay? I'm just saying that you have to start paying attention to what they're saying, because the whole immigration thing is a part of this, because they need a new cell of voters. Yes, Suzanne is somebody who gets it. If you guys don't know what CCSS, and that's the workforce pipeline, guys, you can look up I would just search your board of, like, for me, it was VDOE workforce. The best thing to do, Google. Like, everybody bashes Google. Like, they don't, if you were searching Epstein or something like that, they might hide it. But this stuff, there's so much information. But, so, Trump is not even free of this. Anybody that says Trump wanted to get rid of the Fed Ed. No, he didn't. He wanted to merge it with the Labor Department. Okay, so let's be clear. Yes, Common Core state standards, which, by the way, guys, Virginia has had Common Core this whole time. Lynn, Common Core Diva, and I were just on the Sons of Liberty explaining that the other day. They have had it the whole time, and what it boils down to is the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is Obama. Is that if your state, which all 50 states did, took Every Student Succeeds Act money, still taking the money, you have Common Core. Even if you weren't part of the consortia. So, sorry, Suzanne, I was thinking of the CCSSO, which is the state superintendents. Oh, great, awesome. I will talk to you later about that. So Suzanne said she works with the Liberty Bells, and Lynn. And so it's like, I am proud to, like, Anita Hogue, I wish Karen Ephraim was still alive, is that Phyllis Schlafly, awesome. Is that there were front runners who have been doing this long before we did. Unfortunately, like Dr. Karen Ephraim, and so that would be, if you don't know about Child Protection League, Rumble is a great place to find them. CPL and these are people that are fighting it like me from the common sense, both sides of the fence. Yes, Charlotte Iserbyt, I meant to talk about her. And so you want to talk about school choice. Like, these are people that started using the words and talking about the problem. And it's like, you have Ronald Reagan was not a savior. Okay. It's that you have to accept that everybody that you thought is that nothing is, and it's a wake up factor of nothing is it's the matrix. You can choose to be a part of it, or you can step out of it. But let's get to Youngkin real quick.
There's 1 million more job openings than there are people willing to take those jobs today in the United States.
Yeah.
And so we're going to figure this out because we have to.
I'm going to unzoom you. Okay. This was before he was running for governor. This was before he randomly appeared as the governor, that whole shadiness, you go into a secret meeting with 3 people you think are going to come out as your governor ticket, and then you have this man. Who? Okay, but the words, we have 1 million jobs in America that we don't have people to fill them, and we're going to figure it out because we have to. Okay, that is so important. I could clip just that one tiny piece out, and it tells you everything going on. We have to figure it out. We can't figure it out with adults. So who are we going to figure it out with? The children. So the next time that you want to think that, CTE, career technical, or is no. Tell people, I'm not anti more vocation. I am anti all vocation, because you've determined that my child is either an alpha or a delta or a gamma based on their data by the time they're 10. And so through personalized learning in a book, in a device, you're going to direct what my child learns, and whether they're going to be a widget maker or say, the almighty job of being the button pusher at the robot plant for the 4th Industrial Revolution, okay, is that's what they're doing. Why? To fill the jobs. I was in Orange County 6 weeks ago. Strategic plans, guys, they are part of the problem. They are part of the solution, too, for these people. The man literally said 50 to 60% of the jobs these children will have not been created yet. And he just kept rolling. Me? I'm like, did he just say that? And nobody was shocked at all. They're like, okay, they haven't been created yet. Your job is not to educate my child for something that, this is dystopia, guys. This is 1984. This is Hunger Games. I mean, this is The Giver. You can squish them all together and say, it is not your job to educate my child for what is not been created yet. Period.
And when you look at the opportunity to sell a new product or open a new facility or launch a new service, and if you don't
remember, our children are human capital. They are products.
Have the right folks to do it, go find out how to do it. And you partner with a community college, and you come up with a job training program, and you go to the service alumni fairs, and you literally, business is going to figure this out because we have to. The economy's growing. There's new job opportunities, and we need to fill them.
This is our governor. Davos, Switzerland, the World Economic Forum 2020, I believe. This may have been 2019. He was this is why China, I'm so mad we're going to make Chinese batteries in Virginia. It's not going to happen. The man, China's economic outlook, that was either, I get them confused, Davos 2020 and 2019. You can find Youngkin. Because he's governor, it's buried in YouTube. But in the one he did with China, he literally said, in America, when it comes to technology, there is not 2 political parties. The Democrats and the Republicans are united. There is not 2 Republicans when it comes to technology and the advancement of technology. China's prime minister even said that was problematic. That's the problem. But we're not going to go there.
Let's talk about this, if I may again.
So that would be, this would be America's resilience. This would be Davos 2020, I think, or 2019. So then I want to talk about this video, which is the clip that if you guys saw me hold my phone up to the mic at the Virginia Board of Education and blow them up, not literally, but I'm going to take you to the actual full YouTube for this one.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Greg, I can't even stand it. So if you AEI, if you don't know about these people, so this is called the Virginia Education Opportunity Alliance, who is currently holding this Noah Webster's school board thing as I speak. Let's script. I can't stand Craig, so let's just go straight.
This event and Rick and his team for putting
in the executive
Rick Haas,
mansion.
by the way, of AEI. No. So if you think AEI is like this conservative, brilliant organization, look up AEI, Rick Haas, and the Hunt Institute.
But it's actually in the old Library of Virginia building. My great new office doesn't just overlook the Capitol and the executive mansion, but it's actually in the old Library of Virginia building. And there are quotations from 4 Virginians who went on to be US presidents. And my favorite of these quotes is one from Thomas Jefferson. Free inquiry and reason are the natural enemies of error. Let me read that again. Free inquiry and reason are the natural enemies of error. These words are not just decoration at the top of our office building. They are the foundation for Governor Youngkin's education agenda.
Real quick, pay attention here. The foundation of their education agenda, out of her mouth. Her mouth. And this is just a blurb.
And I'm so pleased to be with you today to provide an overview of our vision, our priorities, and our goals. And I'm honored and delighted, really honored and really delighted to be a part of the governor's team as he works to make Virginia the best place to live, to work, and to raise a family. And on this call, we all know that for that goal to become a reality, Virginia also needs to be the best place to learn. So
we're going to go to this shortly. Learners, Virginia is for learners, okay? A learner is not a student. It is not a pupil. We'll get to this. So learning, we'll have to, it's literally, I've changed in some documents, Virginia's for earners. Is like that learners it's a business model. They're not students, okay? Learners are not students. So be clear on that.
Everything that we do in the next 4 years in the Youngkin administration will be guided by our North Star to prepare.
North Star is another one. Write it down.
Every single learner for success in life.
Every single learner. All means all. These are terms that you need to know. Cradle to grave. So it's cradle to grave. Correct. With it, and that is literally cradle to grave. I mean, I went there. They were talking about sign up for pre-K here in Chesterfield County, and I was like, that's Head Start. That's 100% federal. Government, you will have no control over it. Those kids are still masked. So it's things like cradle to grave. Why do they giving and who does that target? Just like equity, just like welfare, it targets underprivileged. I am not racist. I am not white privilege because I'm telling you they're targeting you like Planned Parenthood, like welfare. They're targeting the ones they say that they're trying to help most of all.
In our economy, our democracy, and in our communities, everything.
So I'm just gonna rewind that.
Be guided by our North Star to prepare every single learner for success in life, in our economy, our democracy, and in our communities. Everything we do in education will be shaped by this goal. And how will we know we'll be successful in the long term? We have 3 benchmarks we're going to use. 1, graduates of Virginia education institutions will be hired into family wage supporting jobs, and they'll be actively engaged and productively engaged in civic life. 2, companies will be attracted to, remain in, and grow in the Commonwealth due to the quality of the talent pool. And 3, the Virginia economy will grow.
This is where I lost it at the Board of Eight. And I will point out Amy Gadara is the founder of the Data Quality Campaign. As soon as I had questions about Youngkin the whole time, I campaigned for the man because I was one of those people that said, nobody can be worse than Terry McAuliffe. Nobody. I can remember after 2020's election, literally out of my mouth stating I would vote for Big Bird. God was like, here you go. I would vote for Big Bird to keep Terry McAuliffe out of. I mean, I can remember saying it. And people say, well, Amy needs to go. Yeah. Founder of Data Quality Campaign, one of Bill Gates' most funded education. Bill Gates is not an LLC like Zuckerberg. You can pull him up and find out how much money, millions and millions and millions and millions, when it came to K-12 global sector data quality campaign. So, I was one of those people. Nobody can be worse than Terry McAuliffe. I mean, I will vote for Big Bird to keep him out because I was still under the belief that an R was an R and an L was an L. No, I'm sorry, a D, not an L. Okay. But guys, here's the thing: is what I have to tell people. Nothing has changed in education. It's gotten worse. Why has it gotten worse? Because when Glenn Youngkin won, we stopped fighting. Okay? Keep in mind, nothing's changed. Transgender model policy, still sitting here. Critical race theory, more than ever. He did not, look, people, I mean, I jump into Twitter spaces because across the country of people spitting disinformation about what Glenn Youngkin, and no, you don't live here, don't talk about my state. Well, he just fixed this. No, he didn't. Stop talking about it. He has not done this. Nothing. I mean, even on War Room, I got War Room, Bannon cut me off, and I was not invited back because I called Youngkin a liar and said he's not done anything. Okay? And so keep in mind what she says. Children, how will we know we reached our goal? They will all earn a family supporting wage. Everybody's like, well, isn't that like the goal? Keep in mind, the North Star for education should not be to earn a family supporting wage. Because what is a family supporting wage? Well, considering the fact that to send my children not to public school, and we live on a single income because as a stay-at-home warrior mom, I don't earn an income doing this, running a nonprofit, doing what I do. My husband works 85 hours a week to support a family supporting wage is like $30,000. Okay, that is not a North Star for education. It is not. Period. Should it be a goal that children should? Yeah, absolutely. It should be a goal, but it should not be a North Star. And that's even a term.
Of Virginia education institutions will be hired into.
Okay, here she is. Just to go.
Graduates. Virginia education institutions will be hired into family wage supporting jobs, and they'll be actively engaged and productively engaged in civic life. 2.
That's another one we're going to get into is actively engaged in civic life.
Companies will be attracted to, remain in, and grow in the Commonwealth due to the quality.
This is their goal for education. Companies will be attracted to Virginia. That's their goal in education. Yeah, Suzanne, so she says, government involvement in it's an unconstitutional period. I mean, it is. And at the core is that I tell people, it's like more acknowledgement of why I would not write legislation on parental rights. I'm not going to write educate yet. I'm not going to write a parental rights, a document acknowledging what I am God-given as a parent. Because by doing that, you actually complicate the process. You complicate, you limit, you've made a list of what your rights are. And I mean, that's a whole different thing, is that we're acknowledging the wrong thing. North Carolina just did it, Georgia's done it. Now, who do you have? McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy is now saying that he's going to do parental rights. Guys, I have a shirt on that say parental rights matter, and yes, it looks like a Black Lives Matter shirt. For a reason, they do matter. But advocating for more law to acknowledge what is already our God-given constitutional right, God-given is the key. 100 years of Supreme Court is that documents that further acknowledge what is already ours is going to make it worse. So she, right here, she says, so she goes on, family supporting wage,
the talent pool, and
recruiting businesses because we will have a talent pool. Look at your kid in the morning, if you still don't understand, and look at them and say, I'm so glad that you are going, cog child widget maker, that you're going to become part of a talent pool.
3, the Virginia economy will grow.
These are their goals in education. The economy will grow. Keep in mind, the man who was the CEO of what? Carlyle Group. Okay? The largest global equity. Okay? This guy is a businessman. This is nothing but a business model. Our children are just the product.
One of the most shocking.
Okay, so let me get back. Oh, I gotta get out of here. Sorry. Boop, boop, boop. Okie doke. And so we talked. This came from the document of our commitment to Virginia's education, when they were talking about the honesty gap in Virginia's 50th in the nation, to which they still haven't. They say, "Well, we'll fix this." What it comes down, they're not going to fix it. They don't care because it doesn't matter to them. So, freedom of speech and inquiry. Glenn Youngkin, if I have it, remind me, I'll pull it up. I just found a video of him. He was in an interview. He applauded the transgender walkouts by children about 2 months ago. Applauded them for exercising their First Amendment rights. They're children in our schools, and our governor is applauding them for walking out. Okay? High expectations. Let's see. It says, all students deserve to be held so high, I think that's supposed to be to high expectations aligned to the needs of the knowledge economy. The knowledge economy. Post-secondary readiness. They have completely removed, it used to be college and career readiness. It is now just post-secondary. So what does that mean? After high school. Learners must be empowered with multiple pathways to post-secondary success. None of this mentions college. And I get really tired of people saying, well, Ann, do you think that everybody should go to college? No, I don't. I lived in that era. I went to college. I have a bachelor's in electronic print journalism, and I have a master's in geopolitical war history of the 20th century. Did I ever use any of them? No. Are they extremely handy? Did I learn so much that I'm dangerous now? Absolutely. They are literally deterring children. I'll show you slides from my 6th grader's exploratory last year before I pulled her. Post-secondary readiness. Learners must be empowered to multiple pathways to post-secondary success, including apprenticeships, internships, workforce training, dual enrollment, and other opportunities. None of this, guiding principle, none of this is actually academics or education. And this really lights me up too, is that apprenticeships, internships, workforce training, they're forcing, they want to get them out. Like, they're like 16, diploma rate. This comes to the getting rid of grade level competency. It's all part of competency-based education, which I'll get to now. Is that there's no longer, seat time doesn't matter. You no longer have to finish a grade to graduate. Okay? It's like earning like college credits. You can get out as quick as you can. Why? Because they need you for that workforce and that talent pool. And the most important overused definition ever that everybody needs to understand is the term evidence-based. Logic would tell you would think what it is. You do not. This comes straight from, can I zoom? Oh, yeah, I can. No, I can't. All right. So this came straight from the Every Student Succeeds Act. Okay. So to be, let's go to this one. Oh, what did I do? I need to go to the next slide. Okay. Sorry. Oh, here we go. All right. So this is under, comes from Results in America, which is, these are all slides. To be evidence-based. So when you see the word, this is evidence-based, whether it's social emotional learning, the Virginia Illiteracy Act, what is evidence-based? It is not research-based. It is not scientifically based. It is not empirical data, which would be like, we're going to study children for 20 years and have a control group and see which one turns out better and if this actually works. That is not what this is. Strong evidence-based is at least one well-designed and well-implemented experimental study. At least one. That is strong evidence-based. Now, all of these are considered evidence-based. Strong is one well-designed. One. Moderate is at least one well-designed, well-implemented quasi-experimental study. This is evidence-based. Under the evidence, and keep in mind, evidence-based did not emerge, it was not mentioned one time in No Child Left Behind. It did not emerge until Every Student Succeeds, where it was mentioned 63 times. Moderate, so promising is evidence-based. At least one well-designed and well-implemented correlational study with statistical controls for selection bias. So all of this, you can say it's evidence-based if you have one study or one quasi-experimental or one correlational study, or if it's still under evaluation, or if it demonstrates rationale based on high quality, or includes ongoing efforts to examine the effects. Ongoing efforts. This is not, so they're talking about Nuremberg 2.0. Our children are nothing but social experiments, education experiments. None of this is founded. None of it has proof. And that's what we've allowed to be done to our children. And this crosses both party lines. This crosses into social emotional learning, this, restorative justice, PBIS, everything. When you see the word evidence-based, this is what it means. It means nothing. Just like what a meta-analysis is. A meta-analysis, which you'll read 100 times and think that it means, ooh, that's science. No. Meta-analysis means that you have found one piece of a puzzle. And so like social emotional learning, it's like 8,500 pieces of a puzzle. Meta-analysis is like, oh, I found one piece of the puzzle in one place and it works. So then you can say it works because of a meta-analysis. So then I'm going to these are very important everywhere, but especially here in Virginia. But these are so knowledge works. Guess where they're located, guys? This is a global company, Glen Allen, Virginia. We are so close to DC, and we've been quiet for so long that we are the final solution. I know Cal, which is now the Aurora Institute. If you don't know these two groups, write them down. You can find everything you need to know on these two groups. I know Cal is now called Aurora Institute. 2019, that happened. Figure out why. But these, especially Knowledge Works. So I first ran into them. My good friend Allison, who writes, if you don't know, Wrenching Gears, it's a blog. Now, if you're ready to get into like blockchain and all of that madness, when you got the foundation of the problem for this, then I would say go to Wrenching Gears if you want to understand the foundation of it. Lynn and Common Core Diva, her blog, will give you the foundation, because we have had Common Core, and as soon as you can understand that, you can go to Utahns Against Common Core, everybody who's fought Common Core for the last 15 years while we sat here twiddling our thumbs. And I've done like 8 shows showing you the documents where we had that. So I'm not going to do that again today. So so this was 2017. transforming K-12 education to personalized competency-based learning. So you can't talk about how much the libs did or how much is when you still have our new red wave talking about the same thing. And Virginia virtual learning, guys. This is 3 years prior to COVID. I live in a county that you'll see real quick. They've been developing virtual Virginia since 2004. I graduated from this county in 1998. So in this, these would be the ones that they hit on the hardest. Fairfax, Frederick, Loudoun, Cumberland. So you've got a mix of biggies, smallies. So these are student-led assessment network improvement. This was their initiative in the beginning. So if you live in any of these, you were targeted first. So it goes in redefining student success. They redefined it under what administration? The left. Now who's continuing it? The right. Opportunity for local stakeholders, that's not us, to come together across the community and ask, what do we want students to know and be able to do to be successful and fulfilled in college, career, and civic society? This was written under who? Ralph Northam, James Lane. Who just regurgitated it out of their mouth? Youngkin and Gadara. Opportunity for states to develop profile of a graduate. Guys, if you don't know about profile of a graduate, that's another one I would write down. Because I'm trying to give you the pieces. I'm going to, in these series, connect all the dots for you. But is that how I learned? Remember, I've been ignorant. October 10th, 2021, I joined this game. And here we are, I don't even know how many months, 18 months later. Guys, profile of a graduate is like understanding, everything. So here, again, this is what's really disturbing. And my friend Lisa Logan in Utah found this for me. This would be Ballotpedia. This would be I Know Cal. This is a global company. It found under institutional members in Chesterfield County Public Schools. She sent it to me just because because of the Virginia part. I wrote her back and I said, I live in Chesterfield County. How are they an institutional member of a global education transformation company? Keep in mind, James Lane came through here before he went to the Department of Education. And now, in under 8 years, he went from Goochland to Chesterfield to Virginia to now being federal. Okay? So we are institutional members. Look, Jobs for the Future, if you don't know about them, they are an associate member. Corporate members are Pearson, Intel, and Blackboard is a platinum. Blackboard, do you know who owned Blackboard first? Carlyle. They were worth like, I don't know, $1 million when Carlyle acquired them. And when they sold them years later, they were, it was like $600 billion. So who owned Blackboard first? Carlyle. Keep that in mind. Pearson is another part of the Carlyle coctopus, as I call it, I'm putting together, but it just won't stop. So keep in mind that when you have a county in a Virginia that is an institutional member of a global company that's partnered also with Pearson, Intel, and Blackboard, you have a major problem, Chesterfield County, Virginia. So education excellence, which comes out of Governor Youngkin and Amy Gadara's mouth every other day. It's literally a thing, just like global citizenship. In recent decades, so this just came from me just looking up what is education excellence. You'll find it. You can find ResearchGate. You can find, but ERIC, if you don't know about ERIC, they are like the document keepers of all truth in education. It's an abhorrent organization, but that's where you find a lot of this stuff. And so if eric.ed.gov or whatever has this, it means that the government has known about it the whole time. Philosophical inquiry in education, on education excellence. Schools have been encouraged to provide world-class quality education with an emphasis on outstanding performance for some students, along with general improvement outcomes for all. Education excellence is, however, a very debated ideal. Given the complexities of defining excellence, questions arise about the precise meaning in relation to achievement, but also importantly about its significance for education. It suggests that this paper, which you can look it up, or is that what I do is, so I would then type in on education excellence, Lorella Terzi, like if I ever give you it, people are like, well, you didn't post the link. Look it up. Like, this stuff isn't like WikiLeaks, like it's not Snowden. So it says, it suggests that education excellence ought to be conceived in ways that are conducive to general aim of well-being for all. So she said, what one individual might define as excellence, another may not. Correct. But as I'll show you is that, so what I do is I collect multiples. But anyway, so excellence is the opposite of what they, and I'll show you Stupsky and OECD in a second. So it suggests that education excellence ought to be conceived in ways that are conducive to the general aim of well-being for all. Keep in mind, for well-being for all. This is going to tie into global citizenship education. So when you see your standards continuously written with a global citizen and nobody ever thought to actually look it up, it's a thing. This is why I tell people Youngkin will never get rid of equity. He will never get rid of the transgender policy, because all of that is part of global citizen education. And the well-being for all. And various abilities that lead to valuable pursuits with due consideration of the importance of high achievement in relation to individual specific aptitudes. Okay. So this is from a different one. Is that it says, this is actually one that talks about it's not a great thing. Excellence is a term that stands out in modern education discourse, and one that has attracted ridicule from some education commentators, which it should. In this critical commentary on how the notion of a university, because it started in the universities, but it now still applies to non-university, PK 18, I guess is what they're calling it now, because you got PK and then PK 16, and that would be 12 plus 4 years of college. Excellence acts as a non-referential unit of value entirely internal to the system and an empty notion. The implication is clear. Excellence and excellent have become effectively meaningless terms in such context. And what excellence education comes down to is your experience. Your experience is what matters. The child's experience. It's all going to come down to actual facts. Facts. Facts are not knowledge. You have to have facts, and then later in life you develop knowledge. They're no longer teaching the facts, they're just wanting you to develop your own knowledge. So this is just understanding global education. A better model for defining and achieving excellence is to focus on excellence in education for all students and let the numbers emerge as a result of seeking excellence. Sounds like Bill Gates, who said, you know what, we don't know what's going to happen here, but we'll know in 10 years. 10 years is up, and we know. Is that, we'll just let it happen. We'll let the ball fall. We'll let it unfold. The criteria for excellence are neither arcane nor complicated. I propose a simple model that focuses on the traditional 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, plus what I call the other 3 R's. So that would be reading. And now we've got reasoning, resilience, and responsibility. And I wanted to get into learner. Learner, 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 learner. A learner is not a student. A student is taught by a teacher. A learner directs and supports their own learning. So when you hear student learner or student-led learning, they're not teaching your children. Why do you think they're not hiring teachers? They're hiring instructional aides. A learner supports their own learning. They determine how they want to learn, how they learn best. The teacher is now just the guide. They work at their own pace versus defined time. Mastery is another one. And that's different than grades, guys. So when you talk about mastery, when you see that, like a mastery of skills, this is not grades based on education. They develop their own learning goals and monitor their own progress versus what is taught by who? The teacher. They design their learning experiences based on passions and interests versus experiences, teacher-designed activities and projects. No teacher I know historically in the past designed a curriculum based on their life experiences. They did it based on fact. And so this is like learning versus education. The same thing as knowledge versus education. Learning is the intellectual process of acquiring new skills of knowledge. Learning is a natural process, they say, and is driven by intrinsic motivation. Education is an enlightening process of receiving and providing knowledge through systemic instruction. You are instructed by a teacher. Children are not being educated. It is a deliberate process. It is required. This is a different one. An extrinsic motivation, like grades, is what drives education. So this is a really knowledge. We talk about knowledge. Knowledge, 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 knowledge. Knowledge is a process of acquiring facts, information, and skills through one's own experiences or learning. It's a process for children to acquire facts on their own based on experiences. Education is a process of learning in a systemic manner from a formal institution, such as schools, colleges. That'll be important in a second. So education is systemic. You have certain criteria you must reach to graduate with grades that matter to move to the next level, whereas knowledge is acquiring the facts that you care about with skills. And this was another one. I'll jump. Training. This was so training, substitute learner with training. It's the same thing. Training. A learner is being trained versus educated. Pursuit of ability versus the pursuit of knowledge. Method of skill development and method of gaining knowledge. Guys, keep in mind, knowledge has to be, education teaches you knowledge. Now they just want to skip to the knowledge based on feelings, based on your experience. So again, learner prepares for a present job. Education would prepare you for a future job. And this is in the context, like I said, of training an employee versus, education. And then comes into the learning for an unknown future. Knowledge, which is of old view, was that it was a noun. Focus on getting traditional context, minimize exposure to uncertainty or partial knowledge. It was a noun, and in the 21st century, knowledge is now a verb. Creating and using, not just getting knowledge. They say it's generic. Knowledge used to be generic. Now it's learning to be. Learning to be was actually the name of a document by UNESCO in 1973. And then I'll go to one of the little known, Stupski. Next Gen Data System. If you don't know OECD, that's one of the main ones. So Suzanne said, how could one define an excellent children in the system that cannot read and write on their age and grade level? It's because excellence does not mean what it sounds to mean. We think, well, of course, we want children to be excellent. Excellence in education is, I'll show you right here. This would be what they consider excellence in education, is that the current system was not designed to serve all children. So excellence in education is to, you have your high achievers and your low achievers. So excellence is leveling the playing field. It's equity. It's getting rid of meritocracy, which is why I laugh every time that Youngkin goes on Fox News and is so outraged about Virginia getting rid of, or some schools, you know, not notifying about meritocracy. Is it makes me laugh because I'm like, you're just blowing hot air. So this is here, and this is part Carnegie. This is part of competency-based education. And this is from the same slide deck. By them, I didn't do this. Instead of sorting and selecting would be giving children grades. They consider that bad. It's called sorting, not giving grades. You're sorting them. So instead of sorting and selecting, we need to scale next generation learning for all kids. Personalized learning that occurs anytime, anywhere. They literally mean that. Anytime, anywhere. They don't want the kids in brick and mortar. That's what it's going to come down to. They don't want teachers. They want instructional aids. We have 46 math classes being taught synchronously, which means in a classroom with bare walls, in the school, on a computer, with a live teacher. Some of them are in Jamaica, remotely, with instructional aides who are essentially proctors who stand there, and your child stares at a computer all day long. 46 math classes. So that's anytime, anywhere learning, and a result for world-class knowledge and skills. We'll get to skills. Measured through performance-based assessments, we'll get to that. Engaging students' own voice and providing a comprehensive system of supports. This also comes from my good friend over at Wrench in the Gears. She put it together better than me. So we're stuck, let me jump, I think it's jump forward real quick. So we're stuck in Ed Reform 1.0. We're fighting vouchers, charters, Teach for America. Guess who loves Teach for America? That would be Andrew Rotherham, the Mark Tucker of Virginia that nobody's talking about. Who is Teach for America? That's the people who are like, they're not really teachers. And this has been going on for 30 years. High stakes testing, budgeting. So this is stuff that we're talking about. Meanwhile, Education Reform 2.0, hybrid learning, online gaming platforms. Guys, Lego brought into 2 miles from where I live. They will not produce one block. Lego Metaverse. We had a Republican introduce a bill for augmented reality and VR standards of learning 1 month ago. Your kids will be in augmented reality. Some counties already have contracts with Lego. Loudon, Hanover. They're not making Lego blocks, guys. Why would you have a $500,000 contract for Lego blocks? Whole child data collection. Whole child would be Chan Zuckerberg combined with data quality campaign combined with SEL, UNESCO, that whole thing. Standards-based grading, that's not grade level competency. So what we're dealing with. So Ed Reform, what does it look like? More instruction happens through devices. Well, if you're a state like Virginia, we have 100%. I didn't realize that not every state is like this until I was on Unwokable podcast in Oklahoma. And he was like, wait, not Oklahoma, Texas. I'm confused. I've been on too many shows. But he was like, you have no textbooks? None. Not a one. And so there's 19 states where that comes down from the state level, and we happen to be one. So that was a state level decision at some point. The county I lived in hasn't ordered a textbook, and this was in an article I found from May, in 20 years. We have no textbooks. Everything is done in a computer. Students have less face-to-face social interaction with teachers and peers. Yes, absolutely. These kids, they're exhausted, their brains hurt because there's no standards for helping their brains from staring at my head hurts right now from staring at this screen for an hour. So migraines. Not only to mention, I've talked about this before, RF chips. Your kids, they're tracking them because the Chromebooks or iPad, they have RF chips. Not only that, RF radiation. They're not warning parents that, hey, your kid's been on this device all day. You should probably tell them not to put that in their lap when they're doing their homework. Oh yeah, they don't have homework. Never mind. So, guys, is that there's so many elements of this that are wrong. But that's a big one, is they're not telling you that you have an RF chip in that thing that's tracking your child's everything. Everything. Where they are, tracking it. So a child's access to information is determined by algorithms that data mine their past performance. Guys, no human teacher can, this is important, no human teacher can do personalized learning for every child. No teacher, human teacher, human instructional aid, human, paraprofessional, no human can give personalized learning, and this comes to Jillian Balow saying that every student, we're going to use special ed, and every student will have an individual education plan. Things like that. How in the world is that possible? Not with humans. They will have, it is all done through data collection. So, again, wrenching the gears, Allison, she broke this down. What does innovative mean? Untested. Student-centered means isolated. Personalized learning means data mined. Adaptive means that it's controlled, not by you. Blended hybrid learning is limited access to a human teacher. Formative assessments, which is a big one, online surveillance. Gamified education software is literally behavior modification. 100%. VR goggles, which is what we're moving into, is 100% behavior modification. One-to-one devices are nothing but data gathering platforms. So the image on the YouTube thumbnail was this. This is probably what I would say is the most important document that everybody should read. And before I knew who KnowledgeWorks was, when I was just researching general terms, this is one that I stumbled upon. It's called A Transformational Vision for Education in the United States. And I'm going to open the whole document up in a second and read it to you. But really important is that, so you've got KnowledgeWorks here. You've got New Profit here, extremely important. Then you've got these, like the Schote Foundation, very important. You've got Samsung and Microsoft here. Walt Disney, right here, okay? But then right here, so Lily Eskelin was the president of the NEA before Looney Pants Becky Pringle. So you've got the NEA, and then over here, you've got Randy Weingarten, AFT. So you've got Johns Hopkins, Brookings, Nellie Mae. Is that, so here, this is like one of the big, you talk about a group of individuals who is what? Transforming education. And I did a show and I said, it was called, What Do the NEA and Glenn Youngkin Have in Common? And so when you have the NEA and Glenn Youngkin agreeing on global citizen education, that's a problem. So this document is one that's extremely important. So let me get out of there real quick, and I'm going to pull up that actual document. It's right here. Okay, so this is the full document. I have it saved as a PDF, so I can't send it to you, but it's easy. So let me pull out my version because I can't read on that screen. So this would be they say, now keep in mind, we are a group of educational practitioners, scholars, business people, parents, and advocates with extraordinarily diverse set of backgrounds, positions, and perspective. We are engaged in blended learning, disruptive technology, deeper learning, connected learning, personalized learning, social and emotional learning. This was in 2015, I think. Community schooling, out of school learning, teaching improvement, the teaching profession, and its collective leadership, school choice, and more. We came together, recognized that we have strongly held and often divergent views in the number one current issues and controversies in public education. We are determined to create a vision of the future of education that could unite us and many others. So this is a document where you have both sides of the political spectrum who came together to decide what the new vision of education, and you didn't know it. So simply put, the current system was designed in a different era and structured for a different society. What society do you live in? I still live in America. Our economy, society, and polity are increasingly at risk from an education system that does not consistently prepare all children to succeed as adults and is at least effective for the children facing, of course, greatest social and economic challenges. Of course it is. But let's see. So they go into the re-envisioning of the learning experience. And just, keep in mind, let me see. Okay, so these are the people, they say, we stand behind the united vision for a new future of learning. In this future, the education system is structured with the learner at the center. Learners seek mastery. Okay, mastery is a big one. I don't know if y'all can see this. Let me zoom in. Where is the zoom in? I don't know where it is. There we go. Mastery not only of core knowledge, but of skills and dispositions that promote lifelong success. This document is designed to catalyze a new national conversation about education transformation and to become a rallying point for a network of leaders who are already or would like to be working along similar lines. Uniparty revision of the transformation of education. Keep in mind, right here, I'm reading my highlighted. Okay. Are able to deeply engage in their own communities, their nation, and the global community. Okay. Big problem. And then right here, to enable all children to fulfill their full potential as empowered individuals, constructive members of their communities, productive participants in the economy, and engage as citizens of the U.S. and the world. Remember Amy Gadara and their education excellence? Right there. And then right here, so the purpose to which we are committed. Okay, so education is different than 100 years ago, and we are in a different society and a different economy. But right here, nor can it provide the individual and public benefits that we seek. Individual and public benefits they seek. And then this whole document I'm gonna have to comb through with you guys as its own show. And then it says, we have inherited this system, which is based on a standardized factory model. That's what they called old education. It was a factory model. You teach all students the same information, and that's bad. No, it's not. It's called equality. It's called meritocracy. It's called you earn it, you learn it. But it was all children can't have the same outcomes, so we have to transform it. Well, no, that's not the way it's going to ever work. So this is what we're looking at, is that they're talking about age cohorts. That would be great. That would be grades. You're in sixth grade. You're in seventh grade. They're calling them age cohorts now, which is bad. And so they go on to, students are expected to work with their assigned material and move along with their cohorts, their grade, as the years pass. Yeah. No, that's a bad thing now. Is that, okay, so, and then go down to, oh, sorry, I'm reading my notes because my head hurts. Okay, sorry. Coupled, so then it goes into, I gotta get on further. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, so this would be the future, a learner-centered paradigm. So, the current paradigm is for the industrial age, and then you've got the networked. School-centric, all components, this is old, this is bad. Components of the system are designed for efficiency of education delivery in the context of standardized schools. Well, yeah. Learner-centric, all components are designed for the education experience to be adaptable to the needs and potential of each learner and supports the highest possible outcomes for each and every learner. This goes to all means all, and they literally mean all means all. You can't ever have all means all unless it's middle of the road and it sucks. Let me see here. Okay, so this is really probably the most important thing that you need to understand. And so the CCSSO is one of the most important organizations in the swamp that you need to know. Council of Chief State School Officers. CCSSO. That's the state superintendents. And so for the next generation of learners to succeed and thrive, their learning experience must facilitate their development in 3 primary domains: knowledge, skills, and dispositions. Knowledge is a theoretical or practical understanding of someone or something, which goes on, we covered earlier, based on experiences. Skills, every time you see the word skills, social studies skills for the future, SEL skills, are the capacities and strategies that enable learners to apply knowledge to novel, new situations, engage in higher order thinking, which will be the next episode. But these are all terms that you need to start understanding. Problem solve, collaborate, that should make your bells go off every time you see it. Communicate effectively, which is civil discourse, be polite, and plan for the future. Dispositions. Okay, these are their goals of education, is to these 3 things. The disposition of your child is going to impact their learning or their future. They want to modify your child's disposition. The behaviors and ways of being that contribute to a learner fulfilling their full potential. So what do they mean by knowledge? World-class standards, career and technical education, other content areas, and essential literacy. Guys, this is important when you see the word literacy. It no longer means reading. We're talking about data literacy, media literacy, all kinds of literacy. Global competence, applied knowledge. None of this is facts or education. And we talk about skills. Learning how to learn. I get into debates with so many people because Glenn Young and our job is to teach them how to learn, not what to learn. Okay, it used to sound good. For me, it was, I don't want you teaching my child critical race theory or oppressor oppressed. To me, that's what that meant. No. What to learn is the facts. How to learn is the problem. Learning how to learn. They want to teach your child how to learn. And you can't, and that's not involving facts. Time and goal management is why? Because they need them to be part of a workforce. Critical thinking used to be good because it came at the end of education. Now it comes at the beginning. Okay? We have history standards for kindergarten from 2016 that involve critical thinking, cause and effect for 5-year-olds. The age of reason is 7. They cannot connect the dots until they're 7. Work collaboratively. Why? Groupthink. You no longer think for yourself because they need you to think as not as an individual, because you don't matter, because you have to be part of a global competence for the social well-being of the world and society. We'll get into metacognition later in the next episode, but self-social awareness and empathy. We'll get into that. Y'all, I've talked about that 100 times. Creativity and innovation. But dispositions here, this really bothers me. Agency. We'll get into that. Curiosity, initiative, resilience, adaptability. These are the qualities they want for your child. Leadership. I don't know how many times last year my 6th grader was asked, are you a leader or are you a follower? To my extremely damaged, bullied child, that's so asking them, how many friends do you have? Ethical behavior and civic responsibility. Self-control. This is a big one, guys. Is I hear a lot about, teaching kindergartners, self-control, and it's evil. I mean, it is. Is that because why? Is that they have to teach self-regulation, and its roots in Reich is a great article I would look up, but is teaching regulation, self-regulation to kindergartners is why? Because for computer-based learning, they have to have children who can sit still for a long period of time. Okay? 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they need to be playing, they need to be out having recess. They need to be playing. They need to not play-based learning because that's even a thing. They need to be children. And that is the thing, as I was saying yesterday, because my child had Dr. Seuss's birthday. And so she and her friend, so my child has dressed up for probably, and she wears a uniform, probably 25 days out of the last 3 months, because there is joy in the school that is not public education for her. Is they celebrate birthdays, is that you can come in, you can sing birthdays. And there is no joy in public schools, assemblies, plays. You can't even get in the building. Don't send your kid to a school if you can't get in the building. And this is where I start to get really passionate. I get it all the time. I can't get into my kid's school. I went to pick him up for a doctor's appointment. They wouldn't let me in. They brought my kid to the door. If you can't get in your kid's school, why are you sending them back? Well, we don't have another choice. You figure it out, because what's going on in those doors, think about it. If you can't get in, there's a problem. So, hey, so Jennifer is part of my squad that I've had the pleasure of meeting through working with Lynn and Common Core. The iReady app, which is in NSDPA, has mind-numbing homework, which my 6-year-old niece has now memorized to what characters on the screen are going to say next. Yes, and then she says, it's watching their face and inside their home. 100%. Last year when I first started to understand this, one of the first things that I did, because I had read about other states that were using their cameras for facial recognition to scan their emotions. I don't know if it's happening here, but like I said earlier in the show, if it's happening somewhere in the United States or even globally, it's probably or could. So I put tape over until she could finish out the year over her camera. Tape over it. And yeah, so I mean, guys, I have parents contacting me. We don't have textbooks. Yes, Minecraft, guys. Minecraft is a wonderful thing to look up. Minecraft and Roblox. Get your kids off of it, first of all. What people say, why is it? It's like watching, if you are my age, like the Lewis and Clark expedition game that we used to play in like 5th grade, where it's like beep, 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 beep. I never understood why kids were so obsessed with Roblox and Minecraft. It's part of the Lego metaverse. So when Glenn Youngkin brought in Lego 2 miles here from where I live, look up Lego metaverse. It includes Roblox and Minecraft. Minecraft and Roblox, why do you think that they're building farms and they are building, or they're earning money to buy cows? Okay. It is all part of the global. You're going to learn how to give back to the globe and the world, and you'll have nothing and you'll love it because you don't matter. The good of the world matters. Behavior modification, right here, she says it perfectly. You've got Quest, you've got Roblox, Minecraft, got gamification in education. It is very real. It is coming at you quickly. Like I said, Republican, what is his name? Wampler in Virginia just put in standards of learning for augmented reality and virtual reality for standards of learning for education. Okay? There's so many problems here, and this is why this is not a political us versus them issue. This is about you understanding the words that you're talking about so that when they're talking about education, and where before you were like, yeah, education excellence, now you can start being like me and being like, no, no, no. It will drive you nuts. But the alternative is to be an ostrich parent, an ostrich aunt, an ostrich uncle, an ostrich taxpayer. Look the other way because it's too much to comprehend, and watch this generation go down in flames. They've already completed half, I say. Part 1 is done. I would say grade 9 and below, we have potential of saving. I'm not saying, but I'm saying that if your kid is 10, 11th grade, 12th grade, if they even got there before being pushed out into a vocation that they think that they chose, this is the removal of choice. They're determining your child's lot in life based on the data they're collecting, starting now with Head Start, pre-K, and by the time these kids are 10, 11 at the most, they will have already been predetermined their place for society, their usefulness, and they are all getting individual, personalized, differentiated instruction. These guys, words matter. Anybody want to help me put together a new dictionary? I'm working on it. Words, every word matters. It means something, and they have changed the so we talk about colonization. You go to a different country, the natives don't speak your language. They learn to speak your language, and they're like, okay, and they learn it and they move on, not knowing what it means. We're the natives. They've been speaking a different language to us that sounded like our language, and we've accepted it far too long. Guys, the changing of dialect is so important, and I mean, Eastern and Western culture, is that when you start to change words, people are pissed that they changed the definition of a vaccine. Imagine that one example multiplied by 500 or 2,000 if you think about every word in education. Literally means not what you think it means. Everybody wants to talk about CRT, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Guys, we are so far past that. That's where they want us focused. Is it bad? Yes. Is it everything that we should? If I get sent one more CRT manual by Chris Ruffo, I'm going to flip my lid. We are so far past that. So far. It's like I tell people is that, well, Youngkin did this. Here's the thing is what I've told people. With global citizen education, he can and will never get rid of those things, because part of global citizen education, if you go to on the YouTube channel, the one that says, what do the NEA and Glenn Youngkin have in common? I went into global citizen education with all the visuals of literally global citizen education. You have to have social justice. You have to have the gender fluidity. So if he's going to drive this new globalism, because that's what he is, he can't ever actually get rid of these things. He can respectfully word salad you, mind fork you into thinking that he did something. But as we're learning here in Virginia, nothing has been done. Our kids are no better off. What happened was, because we thought we beat the liberals, we stopped fighting. And then I'm just gonna show you guys this real quick because this was meant to be a quick, brief part one. There's so much to go through. So for this here, so this would be, is you can look up what is the difference of knowledge and education? What is the difference, student versus learner? All right here. So knowledge, so we talk about 21st century skills, okay? If you have a candidate running that still has that on their education platform, do what I did. Take it down. Take it down. You want to know why? Okay, now take it down. So knowledge, what we know and understand. Okay. Skills and character make up a 21st century learner. And the next time we're going to get into inquiry-based learning, which is what we fought. I say we. Jillian Bailey has now left. Suparnadatta has been removed because Youngkin didn't tell Ghazala Hashmi that no, you can't submit that legislation 2 weeks past the due dates. I mean, he could veto that, but we'll get into that's a different thing. Guys, my daughter had project-based learning in 3rd grade, an entire year of project-based learning. I had no idea what it was. It sounded weird, but problem-based learning, Jennifer says, I got restricted for saying this is so, I'll do it this way. We have to cut off the head of the snake. This means they are so far ahead of us, we need to get on the empire. Amen. They are so far ahead of us, guys. People tell me that your approach is, let me finish. So inquiry-based is horrific. It's our history standards. It's basically we want to teach history, and we got it removed. And this took a lot of fighting. We want to teach history from the inquiry is like, what is your perspective on history? It's essentially there's no good, there's no evil, there's no villain in history. Everybody has an opinion. And what is that going to teach children is the frightening future. Problem-based learning and project-based learning we'll get into. And like I said, these are the original history standards and the whole thing that we fought this. Learning content through developing social science skills. Inquiry, this is just, we got rid of it, thank God. And then, so again, I wanted to touch on I Know Cal and Knowledge Works. And so then you've got Bush. This is from before I Know Cal changed to Aurora, the competency based. This is a really good slideshow. You can look it up. Capitol Hill Briefing. These are names that you need to know. I mean, you'll see Nellie Mae again. Bush Foundation. And then you've got Excel and Ed, which is good old Jeb Bush. Jobs for the Future. I tell you, American Youth Policy Forum. I Know Cal. The NGA, guys, the National Governors Association. Okay. Barr. Chan Zuckerberg. Carnegie. When you have the Carnegies and say the Rockefellers and all these people, which is where all this started back then with them. There's a big problem. And so to bring it back to, so student is not a learner, knowledge is not education, are the essentials of starting to understand this. Education excellence is not just two pretty words put together, okay? It is actually a thing. And then, I'm going to read you guys something real quick. Sorry, this is what I do all day. My husband says I'm killing rainforests, but I can't read on a screen. I never could. So, there's it. Yes. When you have people that are writing documents like this would be Knowledge Works. The Education Playbook. And it says, for the next President of the United States. This is by Knowledge Works. Global company. Glen Ellen, 20 minutes from here. Collective, yes. They'd want our children to be a collective. Okay? What is a collective? It is not individual. Goes to identity. Identity reformation of a child is evil. Teaching group, there's a great, and I talk about this article all the time, Stella Morabito. So, Lynn, if you're watching this, Anita, if you're watching this, I miss Stella Morabito. I used to miss Jane Robbins until I found out that American Principal Project was the driving force behind the disgusting school choice bill. So I'm still trying to figure out what happened there because she was a leader in all of this. But so Stella Morabito, love her. Groupthink leads to genocide. Stella Morabito, amazing. And she has, this is where I started to learn about why being politically correct was how our generation started to censor ourselves, was teaching us that we had to be politically correct. No, I don't have to be politically correct. I'm polite. I speak the truth. Nothing will ever come out of my mouth that is intentionally hurtful to anybody. But I will no longer censor my own speech of truth to make you comfortable. Because if I have to talk about your feelings and think about what I say before I talk about anything, because I might hurt somebody's feelings, what have I done? I've censored myself. I have freedom of speech, done it to myself. Why? Because if you can't do anything because you might hurt somebody's feelings, we've all done it for years. And I'm telling you that when you let it go, like Elsa, it is the most liberating thing ever. Because as long as you know that your heart is pure, I speak truth unapologetically, I drop it, no matter where I am, I leave and I don't think about it twice. Because as long as you are on the right side of God, the right side of history, and you can see this for how evil it is, but not only that, but the implications for the future of America. Because democracy only exists by repetition. And I've said this before, and I always close every show with it. If you cannot produce a generation that can replicate American actual democracy, we can see it eroded over the last 4 generations. Okay? This generation, if they are taught this, that their job is to be a global collective and to care about global over themselves, there will be no other generation to continue American democracy. This is the final solution. We are at 1938 Germany, like teetering on the fall of everything. And so if your legislators are not talking about education, make them. If they want to talk about guns, if they want to talk about abortion, if they want to talk about anything, remind them that when these children finish this education, what they care about will not matter anymore because of the way these kids have been educated. Because I got so tired of hearing about, well, nobody in our Senate education is their wheelhouse. We'll make it your wheelhouse, because your wheelhouse will not matter when these children are who? They are who run the world, this earth, this nation. My children I have put into a bubble and protected them from this. But am I one of those parents that is like, my kids are safe, okay, I'm going to go back and have my wine night, I'm going to continue about my life? No, because I don't want my children to have to fight this fight. I don't want my grandchildren to have to live this world. So I can protect mine, but they will shortly become adults who have to live in the world with the children who did not have this kept from them. And I'll close out. So when we talk about these, just document after document after document, is that there is a new, when Glenn Youngkin talks about the new way of the Republican Party, it's literally pander to the middle, create the uniparty, and is so beyond, is that, so when you hear a Republican talk about essentially conservatives, like actual conservatives, are radicals. That's what we're called now. If you are an actual conservative with constitutional conservative values, and you are not a pandering Republican to the middle, because he was I'll pull it up real quick. Is he literally, there's a segment on a show that he was just on. It was reminding me of Matt Walsh. It's called "What is a Republican?" Just like, what is a woman? Let's see if I can find it real quick, because this is where he says that he's okay with the transgender walkouts because children exercise their freedom of speech. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But is that no, I will not subscribe to your new definition of what a Republican is, because of no, I will not pander to the middle. Oh, here it is.
This isn't an or no.
Okay. So I found this randomly while looking Glenn Youngkin Davos. I stumbled upon this, and so this is a keynote speech at. Hold on, let me see what it was. So this would have been in September. Delivering Alpha 2022 on CNBC. So this would have been his keynote that he did. And so I was looking through, I think it had chapters. Oh yeah. Like the investors to reset. Oh, here it is. So I was just looking at
we've talked a lot about
chapters in this when I was looking at it, and this part caught me.
the economy, and you ran for governor focused on the economy. But right now there is a big divide.
Okay, real quick. No, he did not. No, he did not. He mentioned taxes. He did not run on the economy. Okay? Period. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm in Virginia, and I'm the only one. I'm probably the most hated woman, and I don't care. I give this amount about it because I look at my children. I sleep well, and if God does have his reckoning, I know that what side I fall on is the truth. And every politician, every parent who doesn't want to acknowledge the truth that your children are being destroyed, and because you won't wake up, you're being mean, Anne. You're being rude. No, I'm not. I'm being truthful. I don't know what parenting meant to you. Life or death, protecting my children to every end of the earth possible is what parenting meant to me. Getting uncomfortable, being broke because I had to pull them out of an education system and pay for something I can't afford, is... I can't tell you how to advocate for your children. I can tell you what it will look like in 10 years if you don't. In 5 years if you don't. If you don't believe me, watch. But let's listen to Youngkin real quick, because this is what at first I was like.
Over social issues in this country. It's happening across the country. It's happening in Virginia as well. Yesterday, there were hundreds of students who walked out of their classrooms to protest the policies that they say are unfair to transgender students that the Virginia State Department of Education is putting forward. What's your response to those students who say our rights are being taken away?
First, I applaud the exercising of our First Amendment rights. I think that's a
So
real.
you support the protest?
It's a really important moment for us. As long as people are not violent, as long as they're not destructing things, I actually think that that's part of America.
Okay. I thought I hated this man until he said that. Okay. When you subscribe to children's rights, okay, which is what I write, children have rights to be loved and taken care of, be fed, have a roof over their mouth, have parents, guardians, not supportive adults. That is what children have the rights to. Okay? Children have the right to be treated. Okay, that's children's rights. Okay? So when you talk about he applauds children walking out and exercising their First Amendment rights. This is why when Ghazala Hashmi organized a transgender walkout at Midlothian Middle School, a senator in Virginia organized, nobody cared. That's the world we live in. The same senator who put in the appointment on support, or put in the amendment to remove Suparna Dutta from the Board of Education, Ghazala Hashmi. Okay? But this, I have never despised this man more than him applauding. And then he goes into fluff and stuff about the new transgender model policy, and it's about respect and dignity for all, and yada, yada, yada. But guys, by the way, even though it removes parental rights, I'm not going to promulgate. I'm not going to make localities, because I want to be the governor, but I don't want to govern you. This is Understanding Youngkinese. It's a different show. But then, where is... Okay. Hold on.
So you want to run
This is What is a Republican by Glenn Youngkin.
a unifier, it sounds like. You're operating as a unifier in a political environment that is extremely divided. Where do you see the Republican Party going? Do you see the Republican Party coming together, or there are some in the party who say it's splintering?
Let me begin with the fact that I'm an outsider, so I'm new to this. And at least my training is in a 30-year business career was that you set a path and you bring people around that path in order to try to get folks where collectively they're better than they were when they started. And that's what corporate strategy is about. That's what execution is about, when you try to execute against your corporate strategy. And I think that's what we're doing in Virginia. And what that translates to is maybe a different way of thinking through this, which is, the fact is, we don't have to agree on everything, because guess what? We don't. But we sure agree on a lot. And as I said earlier, we were able to bring together Republicans in a unique way last year. We had forever Trumpers and never Trumpers in the same room together, talking about what the best answer is, not debating one another. And we, in fact, found that we could bring Republicans and Democrats together, and independents and moderates, all in the same place around a shared vision. I think that's the future of the Republican Party, and I do believe that that's where America is right now.
No. And this is what I tell people. No. No, no, no. Remember the document with Randy Weingarten and Lilly, where they talk about how they sat around a round table and they created a uniparty definition for the transformation of U.S. education. That is what Glenn Youngkin just said. Okay, he talks about, they did bring Democrats in because Terry McAuliffe said he didn't want parents involved. They brought Tea Parties, ever Trumpers, never Trumpers. Is that, here's the thing, is that this man is going to run, heard it straight from the mouth of one of his people, with DeSantis. He's going to be his running mate, and this is what it's going to come down to. So if you believe that DeSantis is God on earth, get it right. Because if you think that DeSantis and Youngkin running together is just a pretty coincidence, wrong. Okay? So this is the thing. This new Republican that Youngkin wants is literally the solidifying of the Uniparty. The difference is that he is going to bring them, whoever doesn't actually become part of the resistance, the revolution, the no, to the middle. The problem is that the left, the far left, is never going to come to the middle. So they're going to get what they want, always, like they do, and we are going to politely go to the middle because it's the new way of democracy. No. And if you don't start saying no with a passion like this, I don't care if I'm called unhinged. I'm not. These are children. This is the fate of our nation. So if you're okay with any of this, is what I tell people, then look at your child in the morning and say, hello, widget maker. Because that's what they are. They're going to be a widget maker. Whether they're a car mechanic or a button pusher or have been trained to sit in front of a computer for 12 hours and push buttons. Because they are not teaching penmanship. Why? They tell you this. Because the kids don't need to write. They have computers. We don't have to teach actual history because you can Google it. Guys, it's so dystopian, it's mind-blowing. But, so I'm going to jump off at 2 hours. But this here, and for the, I'm just going to rewind it because I just have to show it one more time, is that this new Republican If you're going to subscribe to this in my state, I will add you to my list of who I have a problem with. Because I campaigned for this man. He lied to my 4-year-old. He used my 4-year-old. And I told him the last time I saw him at the Youngkin for Women Christmas party, if I've heard what was correct, remember me. I will be the thorn in your side. And I am not a woman who just says that. Well, and you're insurrectionist. You're this. No, I'm a mother who had a 4-year-old lied to. 14 months later, after day 1, our children are no safer. If you can't look at that and look at him and say, what are you doing? He used us. Parents for Youngkin, we were used. If you're not mad about it and you're still waiting for him to do something, hold your breath. Hold your breath. And wait for him. Keep waiting. Maybe that's natural selection. I don't know. I am so fed up with people talking about, Youngkin, he's so great. He did this. Oh, and stop talking bad about the Republican Party. You're helping the liberals win. It's one party. I'm actually acknowledging the problem. Shame on you for not looking at your kids and getting enraged. Well, I'm just not comfortable with it. Well, then you better get comfortable with your kids coming home hating you because you fly an American flag, or because you eat beef, or because, I don't know, you don't want to eat bugs for dinner. Is that, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me after I've spoken and said, my kid's in college and hates me, and I never could figure out why. Well, now you know. They taught your kid to hate you. So, you can become part of the new Republican Party and become a one of the people who was complicit, who sat by idly and watched as the Jews built the trains and they shuttled them off, because we're seeing this is nothing but genocide. It's just different. Why is it different? Western civilization is very young. We are a blip on the radar. Blip on the radar. 200-300 years compared to Eastern culture, 3,000 years. They didn't have to kill our scholars. They didn't have to literally burn down and destroy our rabbis, our ministers. We were compromised like this. It took about less than 100 years. They were able to, it's really 1960s, 69 is the key of when they were well, we can't throw Molotov cocktails and change the world, so let's infiltrate the education system. And we are just sitting here realizing it. So I tell people, I don't have time. We don't have time in Virginia. The rest of the nation has been fighting for 10 or 15 years because they understood Common Core. We are 15 years behind, and we have about 1 year and a governor who is he is the ringer. He is the red vest ringer in all of this. Virginia is the problem. Why we've been excluded from everything, there's a very specific reason. And now here I sit with about 10 people in the state who are like, yep. Why do you think I'm on Twitter talking to my national squad? Because they make me feel sane. Because working in the rest of this state, no, I'm not destroying the Republican Party by speaking out against Republicans. I am actually speaking as a conservative with conservative values. You change the term. That doesn't mean I'm the bad one. It makes you the bad one. So, in closing, again, so the point of this was to understand education lingo. So when you hear Glenn Youngkin say education excellence, when you hear, go back and watch Amy Gadara. I put the link on there for a reason. The VEOA, Virginia Education Opportunity Alliance. They are the ones at this moment hosting the school board training with the Noah Webster Foundation, who has renamed what the purpose of education is. That's where you want to get all the information of what education excellence is, to create a workforce, to recover the Virginia economy, so that all children graduate with a family supporting wage is their North Star, which and so in the document we talked about, this one, it was interesting to me that that was the first time I'd ever seen anybody mention North Star. Where is it? But I was like, oh my God, they just said North Star. And this would be Randy Weingarten, the NEA, Lily, who was pre-Becky Pringle. So, where is it? Anyway, in this document was the first time I'd ever seen it. Oh, here it is. So it says these 5 elements: learner agency, socially embedded, personalized, open-walled, competency-based. These 5 elements serve as a blueprint. They serve also as a North Star to guide innovation. And then it says much experimentation will be needed to create excellent learning experiences for all children, regardless of their circumstances. It was all for North Star, guys. Gadara said it. Data Quality Campaign founder is our Secretary of Education. World Economic Forum, Carlisle, CEO, governor. Guys, these are not coincidences. You cannot have a governor who spoke on American resilience, and in the beginning of this video you can see him say it. There are 1 million jobs in America that we don't have people for. We must figure this out, and we will. And they are using our children. No. You say, adults, we need these jobs filled. You don't change education to make children fill jobs for the future. That's called dystopia. But North Star, first time I saw it was in this document. That's not even an original Gadara Yunkin term. So, keep in mind, this is the North Star. This is the bar that they set. They're not teaching every child, would be equality education, using textbooks, which are one document as a roadmap that all children get, because that's bad. All children aren't the same. So, and that's how they sell people. Well, your child learns differently. So they're all going to learn differently in computers. What they're doing is they're determining what your child's station in life by their, so whether it's DESA, Panorama, Devereaux, I mean, any of these behavior screeners that I cannot force parents to care enough to opt out of, they're creating the data on how malleable your child is, and then they're determining their education track on that. So a perfect example would be me. I am a high defiant nonconformist. I would have been determined early on as a child that they will never be able to shape me into what they need for their new vision of the future. So, and she's highly intelligent. She's like up here. So we have to dumb her down as much as we possibly can. And this is where the huge failure for the special education children comes in, is that we can't get anybody to care about these children. And the sad thing is because they don't see them as a part of the future, and that they're not valued. And that's what's even more, I mean, I see special education parents begging to have their children read or, taught, and they don't care. And what it comes down to is that multiple documents is that they don't have a place in the future. And that's the saddest part. Is it's not a black or white. It's not a melanin content. And I won't even get into the transgender issue because, I mean, hypersexualization of children, eroticizing of children. You can talk about the Bolsheviks. You can talk about Gromsky, Lukács, Mao, Stalin. I mean, that's not even talking about Hitler. This has been done for 100 years to overturn a nation. It's here, guys. This is my call to action. Is we've started to understand the dialect of you don't speak education. Let's see. What am I gonna do? Those of you, so Twitter, it's at Tatus Ann. I'll type it in here. Virginians for Children First. I will write, let's see, my email, because I don't care, I get email all day long. If I don't write back, let me know, because a lot of stuff goes to spam for some reason, because I don't use our actual org email as much as I should, because it's a pain in the butt. So that's, send me an email. I will actually make a Google Drive, because I have like 55 manuals over the last 35 years of all this stuff. And if you're on Facebook, you can look us up, Virginians for Children First. And then, or you can just look me up. I know, Jennifer, you can give Suzanne my information. It's my Facebook, or my Twitter is. I will tell you, the best thing that ever happened to me was Twitter banned me because I called somebody a groomer, and they were a groomer, and this was post Elon, by the way. They wanted me to admit, because on Twitter they want that it was hate speech, and you have to check a box, and I refused. So I was domestic terror. And then I would not concede to check the box that was hate speech. And so the great thing about my new Twitter account is that my circle got very small, and so it's a wonderful group of national people that continue this fight and understand. So it's like my sanity place. And then if I need to overhaul, because the VDOE redid their website, and so essentially every document from the last decade, all the links, that they don't reroute anywhere. So essentially I need to redo our website, because no document has any links that work for the last 10 years. But so here it is, our website. And then just for those of you that want to know where all of the old VDOE stuff went, so it is Virginia. I found this and they hate it. Virginia is for learners. So this would be the old VDOE site if you want to go find anything, because they're hiding. I mean, statewide longitudinal database. I mean, so much stuff. Because when you overhaul a state website like that, all the links are supposed to reroute. So you can't click on one single memo, one single document that goes in. It doesn't go anywhere. Virginia is for learners. I'm typing it. And keep in mind, if you do go here, it's going to tell you it's because they want to keep you out. They're going to tell you it's not secure. Do with that what you want. But that's why they did that. Virginia is for learners.virginia.gov. I do believe that's it. So that's where the old VDOE page went. So on that note, I'm going to say peace out and go have a, what time is it? I don't even know what I'm going to do. But so like I said, if you're in Virginia, Sunday I will be in Louisa with Senate District 11 candidate Philip Andrew Hamilton, avid lover of Virginia history and the Constitution. I will be speaking, and so he's running against Creeds. But I would encourage you guys, if you're on our YouTube channel, there's a couple, if you want to understand how egregious, I would encourage everybody to, I'm going to show you all this. So this is our channel. This one here, it has me talking for like 5 minutes. But then it's 3 hours long, because, so this would be the J-Car hearing from the Senate from December 19th that I was at where they pandered, but it's 3 hours long because I essentially got a senator to send me the feed because they had taken it off of the Senate archive, so I could not watch it. So I had a senator find it and send it to me. And so what I did with that then was we streamed it. I just hit live and I streamed the whole thing. If you're a parent, it is like watching yourself and you understand how important parental rights are. It's like watching yourself get raped with people cheering it on and then other people standing there doing nothing. It was the most outrageous, but it's got Creed Eads in here. It's disgusting. So this is a little pre-show I did right here. So that would be Creed Eads. That would be Danica Rome, our transgender delegate. That would be Eben. And that would be Lamont Bagby, who since Jennifer McClellan won and is now going up to DC, he's now running. And then you got Mamie Locke. Okay. This was the squad we were up against. Okay. So it was the most disgusting thing I have ever been a part of. And by the time I got up there to speak, my head was spinning. But I would encourage everybody because you talk about pandering, but and you talk about why Balo quit is that you watch Gadara got destroyed because she doesn't know anything about education. She only knows about data collection and education. She could not even argue parental rights or the actual law about the transgender model policy and why it could be, because it was written like a school board. They wrote a law to pass it to the VDOE. Model policies can be rewritten like school board policies at any time. They did not need a Senate. They created a new one. Well, the ACLU said, this is not fair. What? Delegate Head said it perfectly. I'm sorry that you wrote a crappy law. You passed it to the VDOE thinking that Northam or the liberals would never. But here's the thing, is that people like me who knew the law, before he was even elected, I was banging on the door. You have to rewrite this. You can rewrite this. Here's the law. Here's the law. Here's the law. But keep in mind, it's been rewritten, but he's the governor who's not going to govern. So he's not going to actually promulgate it or force a school board to give parents their rights back. So when it comes down to it, I will see all of them in the Supreme Court for violation of due process for removing my parental rights, which forced me to pull my 2 daughters out of public school and put them somewhere safe where there were no longer co-ed bathrooms, or my 11-year-old was not forced to stand up and could not sit down until she said her pronouns. That's what we still live in Virginia. So please pass the message along. Virginia is not okay. Nothing has changed. And to please be awake when this man just tries to run with DeSantis for governor. That's my spiel. I'm out of here. Take care, guys. I will see you Sunday, hopefully. Meet Philip, because when you have people running for Senate that want to be involved, one, that's like Matt Strickland, Mike Allers. When you have the balls to run for Senate and you are willing to associate with me, that says a lot. Not that I'm the have-all, be-all, but when you're willing to run for a red seat and you want to have me come speak at your event, unlike other people running for Senate who people think are the patriots of Virginia, who have used me before, but now, well, I'm going to panter, No, I'll replace you too. If you still want to talk about education now that you know what it is. So when you have people like Philip Andrew Hamilton, Matt Strickland, Mike Allers, Senator Amanda Chase, who was the one woman to stand up, and I wish I had a video on it, but I don't, against the Senate for a new mental health curriculum, the one out of both political parties to vote no, because it was not her wheelhouse, but she listened to me enough to be the one woman to stand up in the Virginia Senate and say no. We are the problem. We have created the suicide mental health problem. It may not have been intended to do that, but that's what we have done. The last thing that we need is more mental health for these children. One woman. So, you guys, I will see you guys hopefully if you're in the area. Like I said, it's in Louisa. He's District 11. Philip Andrew Hamilton. Bobby Ebereth, my co-founder, Virginia for Children's First. We will be there speaking. But you have to support these people. And like I said, is that you have to become a change maker, is educate politicians, people running. I don't want to run for an elected office. I would rather educate people and get the right people in place who want to be in politics, not so much a politician, and give them the information so that we can change the game. Because if I ran for office, I'm one person in one position. If we can start the narrative with people who want to run, and then you have them by their feet to the fire when they go into office, because they already know, they don't have the excuse that they didn't know. But it's bad. If I could tell everybody to get their kids out today, I would. But I hate telling people that because, but yeah, if you have to, live by the skin of your teeth, like my husband, my family, but we are happy, my children are safe, they have joy again. This is where I get emotional. So, my 7th grader was so damaged last year. Many reasons. Bullying. If you're a white child, they don't care because of the CDC definition of a power imbalance. And that's essentially what it is your state probably has defined their definition of bullying as there must be a power imbalance or perceived power imbalance. And that is essentially oppressor oppressed. That's why they don't care if white children are bullied, because there's no power imbalance. So my child was bullied for years, and then she had a mask on her face. And then they talked to her incessantly last year about anxiety, suicide, depression. I questioned, what did I do wrong? My child hated me. We had no relationship. And then I had a beautiful, fluffy, little happy 5-year-old. She's now 6, in kindergarten. And so she's never been subjected to that. And so the relationship that I have with my oldest, my daughter now, is so amazing and so beautiful and so loving. And all that's changed is I got her out of public education. That's the only thing that changed. Nothing else about me ever changed, because nothing about me, I'm not saying I was perfect, I didn't create that problem. They did. And this is what I will close with. With rights comes responsibility. You can't take parental rights away from us without taking the responsibility. Because what they're doing to children, they don't get the blowback. They don't have to deal with what happens in the home. That is a problem. There is no accountability for the blowback of what you've chosen to do for children without us being part of the problem. That's the problem. So every suicide, every child who is emotionally scarred, stop blaming yourself, first of all, is what I tell people. Look at what you don't know. Look at what you don't know. Don't accept that you're the problem. Don't accept the blame that it's your fault. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect. But if your child is not acting like the child that you raised in your house, with your values, your morals, your beliefs, your child comes home hating you, won't talk to you. Get a parent portal, go into their assignments. You'll find it. Get them out. Literally, I can't say it. And school choice is not the answer, and that'll be a different show. I'm running on 2.5 hours again. I got used to talking to myself a long time ago. But, yeah, so reach out. This is episode 1. If you're catching the end, please go back and watch the beginning, because it did start out short with going through understanding education. But like I always do, I digress. I need to set a timer. Limit myself. I need more self-regulation, Anne. But like I said, self-regulation and its roots in Reich. Great article. Stella Morabito has written multiple articles about how groupthink leads to genocide, political correctness, If you don't know, I'm kind of running back through things I talked about. If Karen Ephraim, Child Protection League on Rumble is amazing. Alex Newman has a great presentation that he did going through, the history of all of this. If you have not seen The Mind Polluters or screened it with your squad, it is by Fearless Features. You need to. It goes through comprehensive sex ed. It goes through social emotional learning. It goes through the books. It goes through all of it. And it ties in the Republican problem at the end. It's amazing because they did that. Whereas Whose Children Are They, which got all the critical acclaim, why? Because it only focused on one side of the problem. Mind Polluters did not get the same amount of critical acclaim. Why? Because it focused on both sides. That's the truth and the problem. But it is worth the most time. Get your friends together, screen it, order copies, send it to anybody you can that will care. Screen the Mind Polluters. It's wonderful. But anyway, I'm gonna go. Have a great weekend, and hopefully if I don't see you in Sunday, I don't even know what I have going on this week. But anybody that wants to know more or wants to help me spread the word across about Virginia is Not Okay, I was just on the Sons of Liberty with Lynn, Common Core Diva, who have been so amazing at helping me give it a platform outside. That Virginia is Not Okay. It's a great show. Lynn is actually, we're working on a time that she's going to be coming up to Virginia, and we are going to have a Truth About Education Summit. And we are going to have, she's going to come up and we're going to have a day, and she's going to present on Virginia's truth about education, because who else would you have do it besides Common Core Diva? I don't know. So have a great time. I'm going to go now, and I'll talk to y'all later.